How's it going, everyone? My name is Maximilian, and you're watching episode 10 of Street Fighter X Tekken, the Online Warrior. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Street Fighter X Tekken, the Online Warrior, a show where we go into the variety of gameplay mechanics in Street Fighter X Tekken, break down some matches, and talk about what's going on with the community and this game. And as the topic of this episode suggests, we're going to be talking about the future of Street Fighter X Tekken and the many changes that might possibly be happening soon. So just to give you guys a heads up as far as what the community and the perspective of Street Fighter X Tekken is right now, this game isn't looking very good in the public eye, and I can hardly blame people for that matter. There's been a lot of things that has kind of led Street Fighter X Tekken to the downward spiral of the fighting game genre, and this is kind of reminding me of the fighting jam of the Street Fighter series. For you guys that might not remember, back in, I think, 2004, maybe 2005, there was a game called Fighting Jam that released a variety of Capcom characters fighting against a multitude of other Capcom characters using different playstyles and different system mechanics from Street Fighter games in the past, very similar to how the game Capcom vs. SNK 2 did with SNK and Capcom games. But the game inevitably flopped, and no one cared too much. People kept on playing CVS 2, Third Strike, and Marvel 2, and the game kind of fell off the back burner. It wasn't really a horrible game, but there just wasn't anything specifically about it that people could get attached to. It was interesting because there was also some pretty interesting characters in it as well. And Street Fighter X Tekken is in that position where it kind of feels like that right now, that the game went on a initial moment of being really exciting when it first came out, and then things happened. Essentially, this gem business of the gem DLC and the character DLC being discovered before it's released, as well as other things not being presented to our attention, like the Xbox version not being able to support local co-op play, are pretty big factors when it comes to how the public is going to perceive a game. But before that, like Street Fighter X Tekken, before all these things were announced, was a fairly solid game. Like, for you guys that might have played the Evo build or the build that was at E3, the game did not include the multitude of system mechanics that we are familiar with now, and it was still good and the game was still fun. I feel like the core game itself was actually really solid and really fun. But over time, when things like gems were added and a bunch of the other varieties of components and these DLC things and so much more stuff that happened with the release of a fighting game that shouldn't be happening, and you know what you want to happen with a fighting game is diving into the characters and figuring out how to play the game, and there was all this other stuff happening, and it kind of led to the downfall of this current game right now. So even though we're a few months in, we're not seeing too much exciting moments at tournaments. A lot of places have stopped hosting Street Fighter X Tekken tournaments, and some places have even gone to the complete 2v2 format, and the format of the going back to 1v1 style and trying to reintroduce gems to make things a little bit more exciting. The reason I'm covering these things and I'm giving you guys a little bit of a Street Fighter X Tekken historical breakdown of what's happened over the past few months is because things are possibly and might severely change over the next few weeks. Today, and actually I'm going to do an update video for this that'll come out within a few hours of this one, there's been a recent patch that has come out that is going into the first character balancing of Street Fighter X Tekken, and some things are heavily being adjusted in just the individual character balance portion. Nothing as far as like gameplay mechanics, nothing increasing the timer or anything like that. None of the stuff that we really are looking forward to, you know, the stuff that needs to be changed. But the question has been asked by a lot of players, and there's been that motion or the thought process that Street Fighter X Tekken is a fun game to play. It's not fun to watch, but now there's certain things being added that are really upsetting, like the Ultimate Defense gem and the other DLC gems that are really powerful, like increasing your health and things like that. If you guys go up against other players that are using those things, it's quite difficult. And I think it's come to the point now that Capcom has seen the complaints from the users, seen the complaints from the players, and even from a guy like myself who really enjoys this game and I like it, these things that keep happening to the game aren't painting a good picture, and it's making it really hard to enjoy Street Fighter X Tekken more than it was initially released. So even myself, I'm having a difficult time like accepting these folks that are using like these Ultimate Defense gems and stuff like that, just because it's really frustrating and it takes away the base mechanics and the habits you need to teach someone how to play fighting games. It kind of just throws that out the window and says, you don't need to block these mix-ups, dude. It's okay. You get a free off. And That's exactly not what happens when you play a fighting game, man. You don't get free offs, you get blown up. So what's happening is Street Fighter Cross Tekken is taking a different approach from Capcom. Capcom is actually listening to the fans, and they're gonna do something about it, I hope. One of the more interesting aspects is that there's now a new producer on the game, and Ono is, well, as everybody knows, Yoshinori Ono was the producer and one of the bigger responsible persons of the Street Fighter 4 series, and he was in charge of Street Fighter Cross Tekken as well. But he's actually recently moved on to newer, bigger projects. Who knows what that might be, whether it's Darkstalkers or another fighting game or something else completely. We do not know right now. But what was said is that there's a new producer by the name of Ayano, and I believe he's responsible for the console ports of the Super Street Fighter 4 series, and maybe even the Street Fighter 4 series. So, as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Street Fighter 4, I do enjoy it. I don't hate on the game by any means, but I appreciate that it is a fundamental Street Fighter game, and it keeps that to its roots. And those games were good. Those games offer good balance changes. There were some really weird design decisions when it came to characters like Yoon and the rest of the Arcade Edition cast. But nonetheless, they did fix stuff with 2012. So Ayano is the new producer. Street Fighter Cross Tekken isn't dead. As we all know, there's a whole new DLC package coming out pretty soon, and we've got 12 more characters on the way. So there's a lot more to this game that's going to be coming out over the next few months. Who knows? Actually, it's actually in this information that I'm going to present to you guys that Ayano came forth to the public about, that we might be seeing these things a lot sooner than possible. So Ayano is now in charge of Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and from what it seems, he understands that the players want things to change, and they want things that are anew. So what happened was, he was approached with several Q&A sessions from folks and fans of the community, and he was essentially answering questions about the eventual balance adjustments and heavy adjustments that will be happening over the next few weeks. Actually, more specifically, minus this patch that has just come out for the character balance changes, there's one that's coming out, and they're actually going to announce it around May 19th, so it's a few days away from the day this video is coming out, about the severe adjustments. So let's get into this right now and start figuring out what were some of the more important questions and answers that he was asked. If you guys want to check out the full list or transcript of this information, it is available on Event Hubs or Shoryuken.com. Both of those sites are excellent sources of information for you to get your daily Street Fighter news fix. But if you didn't get to check it out, here's the breakdown of what some of the more important questions and answers that went through. He was asked that he needs to do something about the block stun of jabs and the aerial hurricane kicks, since they are extremely powerful in the game. He responded that they are looking into it, and that we need to check on a balance patch after May 19th. So this is not the balance patch that came out on the 16th of May, or the 15th for some players. This is actually something new that they'll be announcing in a few days. He was asked about the auto block and auto tech gems, and that they're too strong, so this is the ultimate defense gems, and that they're destroying the online population, which I kind of think is true. They say that Ayano responded with that we are going to balance the gems along with the characters. So this is not a response that they're going to get rid of gems completely, and they're not going to go that far, because they still think that they balanced the game around gems. As much as I kind of disagree, and I think the game is kind of out of balance because of gems, they still want to look into it and keep gems for the most part. Users asked if they would please release the 12 new characters early, and they want them to essentially come out before the summer rush of fighting games. Ayano says that he understands, and they're actually considering the change of release date for the 12 characters, and we haven't actually got a release date for these 12 characters yet, but I imagine it's sometime in the fall, like after September. They also want to make this game strong enough that it will battle its way through the summer rush of fighting games, and that's pretty confident, because right now Street Fighter Cross Tekken isn't painted a very good picture in the spotlight of the community. And hopefully, if they're confident enough to provide a fighting game adjustment that can make those big changes, then hopefully it would be good, but it's really hard to say right now, man. He was asked about a no-gem mode being put into the game, and it's also a tournament standard because of it, and he responded that this game was balanced around gems, that they would rather streamline the gems instead of introducing a no-gem mode, very similar to how I was just explaining. Someone asked that they need to fix the timers, and they said we are researching the timer issues, so thank God that they're looking into the timer. That is something that definitely needs to be changed, and I think everybody else will agree with me there. They asked why is it that I can't land Ryu's Shoryuken 3 times in one combo, but Raven can loop his crouching hard punch like 5 times over and over and over. Please fix the juggle limits and counters. He responded that we are looking into individual character changes and changes into the air combo system, so this might possibly mean that air combo juggle priorities and like juggle points that are between each one of the characters kind of vary, that they might actually be more streamlined, that something might actually become neutral for everybody instead of everybody else, every single character in the game having their random different properties that apply only to them. And for you guys that have seen a lot of Street Fighter Cross Tekken, you know that's true. You prioritize the replay analyzer before matchmaking, gems, and character balancing. Did you really finish this game or not? And he apologized that he responded that we apologize if it seemed this way. Of course, the game is not finished and that we want to keep adding content. So when it came to like the replay analyzer that came out like before the first balance patch that came out, that's kind of true from the perspective of the fans, that there's this like fluff thing that doesn't really do anything for the game, which is the replay analyzer, and they still didn't go about any of the severe balance changes yet. So it could just be bad timing, but who knows really from that part. Even after all the complaining about the ultimate defense gem, you're still going to release it anyway? I guess we're just, if we can see them, we can hear them to you, is that right? And he responded with, I have certainly heard everyone's voices on the subject and changes will be made. So this is the first time he's actually responding directly to the ultimate defense gem and the fact that it's way too powerful, and even if you have to pay money for such a gem, it's not worth it. I really hope this means that they don't take out gems completely from the game, but they introduce a mode that you're able to play online where you didn't have to play against people that were using the ultimate defense or certain DLC gems. I can't really think of any other way to do it, because you can't change something after somebody has bought it, you know what I mean? Users ask if the users explain that the matchmaking is horrible in this game, and have you never listened to users regarding this? The online is also questionable. And he responded that the index of ranking has always been about BP. I hope you understand. So he didn't exactly respond to the quality of the online. For my part, and the majority of my games that I play online in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, it runs really well. And it's actually one of the better rollback games that are available for fighting games on consoles right now. But I definitely agree that the matchmaking system is kind of archaic, and it still is following the same suit as previous games like Street Fighter 4, and it never really evolved to the the Namco Soul Calibur 5 standard of being able to get into games faster and the convenience of getting into the next game quicker. Let's hope that happens very soon. The next question was that I expect the same sort of Street Fighter 4 balance to be done to Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and he responded that that's exactly what we're aiming for. And then another person asked that these gems don't work well in tournament settings, and Ayano responded with, not everything is designed exclusively for tournaments. From here on out, though, we are considering tournament use in our changes. So that's a good thing, because that's really where the heart of fighting games remains, is in tournament settings, is in the competitive setting where you watch on streams, in weekly tournaments, and a variety of other things like that. It's really where the game remains in the heart of the players. And the final question was that in order to keep the fire of fighting games burning, please work on your presentation to not just the minds and the eyes of your users. And he said that he's understanding of this subject, and that they're trying to avoid the empty period that was after Third Strike once again. And if you guys remember, I was talking about Fighting Jam earlier, and Fighting Jam was actually one of those games that came out after the Third Strike era. Third Strike had a few other games come out soon after it, and when it came to the Street Fighter series, there was not much left from Street Fighter except for these crossover games, which were included in the Versus series, the Capcom vs. SNK series, and then Fighting Jam. So they understand that they're kind of going into this oversaturation and quote-unquote not congestion, but cannibalism of the fighting game market. But when it came to previous fighting games, and there was this drought of Capcom fighters, the other companies that were making fighting games, like the Guilty Gear guys and the Tekken guys and Namco and everybody else, were still making games. They were still coming out. For myself, I don't want to see there to be a huge drought of Capcom fighting games once again, and I think that Capcom needs to understand what has to happen to make these games really good, and the changes that need to happen. And if anything, Namco kind of took a pretty good stab at it with Soul Calibur 5. And the fact that Street Fighter Cross Tekken integrates some pretty good online elements and the system works well, there's some things that just need to be standard in online games from this point forward. And when it comes to the overall adjustments of Street Fighter Cross Tekken as a game in a whole, there's a lot of things that are really upsetting the players right now, and system mechanics that aren't really working out, if not are completely throwaway, because they don't work in this game because there's too many other system mechanics that are much better. You know what I mean? There's this huge turmoil going on within the game itself, and the players using certain tactics that are really upsetting other players. So thanks to Ayano for submitting those questions and answers, and we have finally got an understanding of what's going on with the future of Street Fighter Cross Tekken. But let me know what you guys think below. I think in the next episode we're going to tackle some of the subjects of what needs to change and what possibly could change if those information details are not released by May 19th. But leave a comment of what you guys think Street Fighter Cross Tekken needs to make it a better game. If it doesn't need a snapback gem, do they need to increase the timer, do they need to get rid of gems completely? Let me know your thoughts. I think it's important to understand where we're going to be going in the next episode of Street Fighter Cross Tekken The Online Warrior, where things might be changing drastically with this game over the next few weeks. But until then, thank you guys very much for watching the video. Please leave a thumbs up if you found it informative or enjoyable. And as always, my name is Maximilian, and I'll see you guys next time.